There comes a moment in every life when silence becomes deafening. A moment when the ache of untapped potential drowns out the noise of excuses. When the mirror stops lying and the eyes staring back say, "You were made for more, not someday, not when it's convenient, but now." Because life does not wait for the hesitant. It rewards the strategist, the bold, the builder who chooses to design their life with precision. Like an architect sketches the blueprint of a cathedral meant to withstand centuries of storms. Lasting success, real successes, not a fluke, not a lucky streak, not a wave you ride. It is engineered, built from the inside out. It is sculpted through intention, carved through principle, and fortified through habit. And so we begin with the first lesson. Stop chasing success like it's a wild animal. You don't hunt success. You plant for it. You sow for it. You create the conditions in which it cannot help but grow. The farmer doesn't scream at the field to grow faster. He tends the soil, waters the seed, studies the seasons. He knows nature is not moved by desperation, only by discipline. Likewise, success is not moved by your cravings, only by your cultivation. So what is your soil? Your mindset. And the question is not whether you have a mindset, it's whether yours is fertile or full of weeds. Most people try to build a skyscraper on sand. They wake up hoping, scrolling, waiting for motivation to strike like lightning. But lightning is rare. Strategy is dependable. The mind must be trained to think like a builder, not a beggar. Strategic success begins by conditioning your thoughts to align with your values, not your moods. Let the weak be governed by moods. Let the masses be swayed by trends. If you want to build something that lasts, you must be led by vision, governed by principle, and strengthened by clarity. Clarity is not a luxury. It is oxygen. Without it, you will drown in the distractions of 1,000 half-finished starts. You will mistake motion for progress and noise for impact. Clarity means deciding, with unwavering certainty, what mountain you are willing to climb for the next 10-year 7 if it means walking alone. It means defining success so clearly that no algorithm, no critic, no shiny shortcut can lure you off the path. Clarity is the sword that cuts through confusion. And without it, even the most gifted mind becomes wasted potential. Clarity doesn't arrive with a lightning bolt. It is forged in the quiet. In the solitude of questions most are too afraid to ask. What do I actually want? What am I willing to sacrifice for it? What truth have I been avoiding because it's uncomfortable to confront? You cannot build lasting success around a life you secretly resent. You must build around truth, because anything else is a prison dressed like paradise. And once clarity is anchored, we move to strategy. Not a to-do list, not a productivity hack. I'm talking about strategic architecture, where every move serves the vision, where energy is allocated like capital in a billion-dollar company, where your mornings are not stumbled into but constructed like launch pads. Strategy is the discipline of alignment off, making sure your habits bow to your purpose and not the other way around. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect made visible. It is the act of telling your future self, "I've got you. I will not abandon you for the thrill of this moment." Strategic people are not motivated every day, but they are trained to show up when others sleep, trained to think in decades, not days, trained to delay the sugar for the feast that comes later. And that feast, it is reserved for the patient, for the ones who understand that real growth is like bamboo, years underground before it breaks the surface. But when it does, it grows 90 feet in weeks. That's how success often works. Quiet, invisible, uncelebrated, until suddenly unstoppable. But the world doesn't see the years you spent planting, reading, failing, rebuilding. It only sees the harvest. So stop performing for the audience and start performing for the outcome. You owe them nothing, but you owe your potential everything. There is a quiet dignity in building what others can't see, a sacred rebellion in saying, "I'm playing the long game in a world addicted to shortcuts." Because shortcuts kill mastery, and mastery is what builds monuments. Now, listen closely. This is where most lose their way. They gather knowledge like hoarders but never act. They confuse consumption with creation. Strategy without action is hallucination. You must be willing to look foolish, to launch before you're ready, to bleed in obscurity while the world looks away. Because action is the great revealer. It exposes weakness, sharpens strength, and teaches you more in a week than theory teaches in a year. But not just any action, intelligent action. Action aligned with vision. Action refined through feedback. Action repeated until results are no longer accidental but inevitable. Every empire begins with a decision. Not to win, but to build. Slowly, relentlessly, deliberately. And that building requires resilience, because you will be tested, not once, but constantly, by delay, by betrayal, by fatigue. And your success will depend not on how excited you were at the start, but how committed you are when it's not working. When the applause fades, when the motivation dies, when the results stall, that's when your philosophy speaks. That's when your standards decide your future. You cannot build lasting success on the back of broken habits and shallow beliefs. Your philosophy, your internal code must be strong enough to hold the weight of your ambition. Otherwise, it will collapse under pressure. So ask yourself, what rules govern your life? What non-negotiables shape your day? Because if your standards are vague, your results will be too. Strategic success is not just about what you do, about what you refuse to compromise. And nothing will demand more clarity, more belief, more strategy than the decision to become someone you have never been before. Because that's what true success requires. Identity transformation. You cannot create a life above your current level of self-concept. You must become the person who would naturally attract, maintain, and multiply the life you want. Not once, not briefly, but permanently. And transformation isn't a weekend retreat. It's a lifelong recalibration, a daily audit of thought, language, and behavior. It's the ruthless discipline of replacing outdated scripts with upgraded programming. Your identity is not fixed, it is programmable. But only if you write the code with intention. So what do you repeat to yourself? What story do you keep telling? Because the subconscious does not discriminate, it just obeys. Speak defeat, and it programs failure. Speak power, and it builds empires. Guard your inner world like it holds the keys to your outer results, because it does. And finally, the one strategic habit that separates those who last from those who burn out: renewal. Lasting success is not about grinding until you collapse. It's about sustaining greatness through cycles of renewal. You must learn when to sprint and when to rest, when to charge and when to recalibrate. Burnout is not proof of ambition. It's evidence of poor design. The most powerful machine in the world still needs maintenance. So do you. Success that costs your health, your relationships, or your joy is not success. It's a silent tragedy dressed in accolades. Strategic success is holistic. It expands your soul while building your wealth. It uplifts your spirit while scaling your vision. You were not born to survive this life. You were born to command it, to shape it, to bend reality with vision, with courage, and with discipline. So, take the hammer of your choices and strike at the anvil of your destiny. Not once, but daily, until what you see in your mind exists in the world. Build it, brick by brick, day by day, quietly, strategically, relentlessly. Because if you do, it will last. And when you build something that lasts, something that refuses to crumble under pressure, something that outlives trends and survives, storms, what you've really built is a legacy. Not a monument of marble, not a fleeting flash of fame, but a legacy carved into the fabric of your character, one that speaks not in volume, but in impact. One that whispers, long after you're gone, this person chose to live with intention. But let's go deeper, because lasting success isn't only about what you build. It's about how you think while you're building. Strategy is not merely a planet, is a philosophy, a worldview, a chosen lens through which you interpret challenge, change, and chaos. Every day, life will hand you volatility. Life will test your commitment with delays, detours, and doubt. The average person reacts. The strategist responds. One is impulsive. The other is intentional. You must learn to step back, breathe, and observe your thinking not through emotion, but through perspective. You cannot afford to be at the mercy of every wave. You must become the captain of your mind before you can command the ship of your results. Perspective is your compass. And here's the truth. Those who succeed long-term do not simply know more, they see differently. They interpret failure as data. They greet discomfort like an old friend. They treat adversity not as punishment, but as preparation. Every setback becomes a sharpening stone, not a stopping point. If your philosophy interprets resistance as proof you're failing, you will quit at the first wall. But if your strategy interprets resistance as confirmation you're on a meaningful path, you will push with greater clarity, greater power, greater grace. Now let's talk power, not the kind that dominates others, but the rare inner power that dominates excuses. The kind of power that radiates from the man or woman who has nothing to prove but everything to give. That power comes not from talent, not from connections. It comes from alignment when your thoughts, actions, and values all point in one direction. That is where real strength is born. It's the strength to say no to what's easy so you can say yes to what's eternal. It's the strength to rise when no one's watching, to do the hard things when comfort is seducing you, to hold the line when everyone else is drifting. And that kind of power demands a deep relationship with purpose, not passion, purpose. Passion burns fast. Purpose endures. Passion makes you excited. Purpose makes you consistent. Purpose is the underground river that feeds your fire long after motivation dies. It's the answer to, why does this matter? And if your why is weak, your strategy will collapse. Purpose doesn't scream, it whispers, but when you hear it, you become unstoppable. You move with clarity. You make decisions with conviction. You say no to the unnecessary because your yes is sacred. Purpose is not found. It is built through reflection, through honesty, through aligning your gifts with a cause greater than your comfort. When your strategy flows from that kind of purpose, your success stops being shallow and starts becoming sacred. And sacred success, the kind that heals as it builds, is rooted in one of the most overlooked strategic tools of all, gratitude. Not the fluffy social media version of gratitude, not the pretend smile on a bad day. I'm talking about deep, soul-level gratitude, the kind that rewires your brain for resilience, for focus, for presence. Because when you learn to appreciate where you are, you unlock the clarity to determine where you're going. Gratitude is not passive. It is power. It breaks the loop of not enough. It silences the voice that says, you're behind. It grounds you in the now while sharpening your vision for the future. Gratitude is strategic because it keeps you hungry without making you hollow. It allows you to want more without hating what you have. And that balance, that tension between contentment and ambition, that's where excellence lives. No excellence. It is not perfection. Perfection is fear dressed in control. Excellence is devotion to your craft. It is the habit of raising your standards, not because the world demands it, but because your soul does. Because you know who you're becoming requires nothing less. Excellence is not what you do when it's easy. It's how you do it when no one's keeping score. It's how you show up when the results are slow, when the audience is silent, when the path is steep. Strategic success is not about winning fast. It's about preparing deep. It's not about going viral. It's about becoming vital. And when your habits, your vision, your strategy, and your identity align, you don't just build a life, you build a force that shapes culture, that breaks generational chains, that creates freedom, not just for you, but for everyone who watches you rise. This is not about speed, it's about strength. Not strength to overpower others, but strength to overcome yourself. And that final battle, that daily battle, it's not against the economy or your competitors or your critics. It's between the version of you that's afraid and the version of you that's ready, the version that procrastinates and the version that plans, the version that complains and the version that builds. You win that battle by choosing the strategy of greatness every single day. Because lasting success is not built by avoiding pressure, but by embracing it, by stepping into the crucible where most run. Because the fire does not destroy the disciplined, it purifies them. Pressure is not the enemy. Disorganization is. Lack of alignment is. Pressure, when used strategically, is a multiplier. It reveals what you're made of, but more importantly, it reveals what you're missing. Every struggle has a strategy buried inside it, waiting to be discovered by the person who chooses to learn, not lament. Lesson after lesson, this path to success reveals its greatest secret. Every external result is the echo of an internal decision. You don't just attract success by wishing. You summon it by your structure, by your architecture of habits, by the invisible design behind your visible outcomes. And that architecture? It must include adaptability. Rigid people break, but those who bend evolve. Strategic success is not about having the perfect plan. It's about having a resilient framework, a mindset that adjusts without surrendering its core. The greatest generals in history, the most legendary builders, the boldest creators, they all mastered the art of improvising with principle. That means being open without being aimless, flexible without being flaky, rooted like a tree but fluid like water. You move when the terrain shifts, but you do not abandon the mission. You listen when feedback comes, but you do not sell your soul for likes. The strategy must be alive. And like any living thing, it must be fed, it must grow, it must adapt. You must feed it with reflection, with awareness, with truth. And truth, real truth, is what most people avoid. They'd rather be entertained than enlightened. But you, if you want lasting success, you must make truth your closest ally. That means being brutally honest about what's working and what isn't, about who you're becoming and who you're avoiding, about the habits you defend and the ones that are slowly destroying your edge. Strategic people are not defensive. They are obsessed with improvement. They don't need to always be right. They need to always get better. And the fastest way to accelerate that growth? Feedback. But not just any feedback. The right feedback. From the right people. You must curate your circle. You must build a council, not an audience. Not yes men, not comfort givers, but vision holders, builders, truth speakers, those who see your blind spots. Not to shame you, but to sharpen you. Your environment is not neutral. It is always shaping you. Either your circle is building your momentum or it is quietly bleeding it. So, audit your circle. Audit your inputs. Audit your habits. Strategy means making the invisible visible and acting before the cost becomes irreversible. Now let's talk about learning. Not just acquiring knowledge, but integrating it. Wisdom is not information. It's transformation. And transformation only happens when learning becomes application. Reading 100 books without applying one principle is intellectual entertainment. But reading one page, applying one idea, and letting it change your life, that's how empires begin. So, learn with urgency. Learn with humility. Learn with fire in your eyes, not because you're behind, but because you were born to rise. Never let your ego outrun your curiosity. When you stop learning, you start declining. Stay a student of the game. Not because you're weak, but because you respect the weight of your calling. Because mastery requires repetition and reinvention. Because the world doesn't care how much you know it, only rewards what you build. And what you build should not just impress, it should elevate. You were not put here to simply succeed. You were put here to uplift, to create a ripple that makes the world around you better, clearer, stronger. The most strategic people understand. The highest form of success is significance. Significance is when your actions echo beyond your results, when your presence lifts the standard for everyone in the room, when your life becomes a permission slip for others to step into their own greatness. But you cannot give what you do not possess. So you must build yourself first, daily, strategically. Because one day, when they ask how you built it, when they ask how you endured, how you outlasted, how you created something so solid in a world so soft, you'll smile and say, I didn't guess. I didn't wait. I didn't hope. I planned. I practiced. I persisted. I built it with vision and guarded it with discipline. I refined it through strategy and amplified it through service. And I became the kind of person who could hold what I once only dreamed of. You don't just need a dream. You need a design. You don't just need drive. You need direction. And you don't just need success. You need success that lasts. Because if you truly want to create success that lasts, not flickers, not fades, but endures through seasons, storms, and scrutiny, then you must go beyond tactics. You must move into principle. And principles are not convenient, they are commandments for those who refuse to betray their future for temporary comfort. Every strategy you execute must be rooted in principle. Because when the pressure rises, when temptation knocks, when shortcuts seduce, it is your principles that keep you anchored. They are the steel beams beneath your skyscraper, the invisible strength holding the visible structure. Let this be clear. Every shortcut taken against principle is a debt you will one day repay with interest. You cannot outwork a lack of integrity. You cannot out-hustle broken foundations. Lasting success is not just built, it is earned, moment by moment, decision by decision. It is the reward of thousands of small, invisible sacrifices that compound into an unshakable reputation. And reputation, once forged in fire, becomes your shield in battle. But make no mistake, building something that lasts will cost you. It will cost you distraction. It will cost you approval. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you the mediocre version of yourself. And it will be worth every ounce of that price. Because what you're building is not just wealth, it's alignment. It's excellence. It's the rare air of living with your full soul engaged. But to live in alignment, you must be willing to operate in isolation for a time. Success, real success, is often lonely before it becomes legendary. You will walk through deserts of doubt. You will face nights when no one claps, when no one cares, when no one sees. And in those moments, your vision must be louder than their silence. Do not wait to be understood. Do not shrink to fit their comfort. The ones who build legacies were once called crazy, arrogant, obsessed, until the results rewrote the narrative. So protect your energy. Guard your gates. Not everyone gets access. You are not obligated to carry what weakens you. Not everyone who started with you is meant to finish with you. Let them go. Elevate your environment. Choose to rise, even if it means rising alone, because loneliness on the path to purpose is better than company on the path to regret. And eventually, if you keep building, if you keep aligning your strategy with truth, your effort with intention, and your standards with destiny, something changes. You stop chasing outcomes, and you start becoming outcomes. You stop needing proof, and you start embodying the answer. You wake up with peace, not just ambition, with clarity, not just urgency. This is the realm of the builders, the thinkers, the legacy makers, the few who chose the narrow path, the deep path, the hard path, and discovered it, led to everything they'd been seeking. And if you're still listening, if your heart's still burning, then you are one of them. You're not here to play small. You're not here to settle. You're not here to survive. You are here to build something that matters. And not just for applause, not just for money, not just for status, but because you know deep in your bones that to waste your potential would be a crime against the very breath in your lungs. So you rise, you build, you refine, you adapt, You lead. You finish. You finish strong. Because lasting success is not accidental. It is architected. Then lean in. Because we're not done yet, not until every fiber of your being is aligned with the truth of what's possible. And here is that truth. You were never meant to live a life of quiet desperation. You were never meant to shrink, to hesitate, to dilute your fire so others could feel comfortable in your presence. You were meant to lead, not by title, but by example, by energy, by essence. You don't lead when you arrive. You lead when you decide. And your decision, backed by strategy, becomes the spark that ignites a legacy. But here's the paradox. To lead others, you must first master yourself. The battlefield is not out there, it's within. The daily war between the old version of you who wants to coast and the emerging force within you who's ready to conquer. So, how do you master yourself? You build rituals. You guard your time like treasure. You reject the trivial. You elevate your thinking. Because mastery isn't luck, it's designed repetition. It's the sacred rhythm of showing up again and again when no one claps and nothing is guaranteed. That's where greatness is grown, not in celebration, but in consistency. The difference between amateurs and legends is not talent, it's intention. Amateurs hope, professionals prepare. Masters engineer their elevation. They know the weight of a single morning, the power of a single decision, the compound interest of a single discipline. Practice relentlessly, strategically. And you, yes, you are no different. The same rules apply. The same fire is available. The same greatness lives within your reach, but only if you decide. Decide that your future is worth protecting. Decide that your standards are non-negotiable. Decide that excellence is your identity, not your option. Because once you decide, truly decide, life begins to rearrange around your conviction. Doors open, but not for everyone, for the ready, only for the committed, only for those who stopped waiting and started becoming. So here's what you must remember. Every day is a vote for your future. Every thought, every action, every reaction, it all counts. The question is, are you voting for evolution or extinction? You cannot drift into destiny. You design it. You cannot wander into greatness. You walk there with purpose. And when the world tries to distract you, seduce you, reduce you, you must stand rooted in your reason. You must remind yourself, I did not come this far to sell out. I did not endure this much to go average. I did not wake up today to betray the very fire I was born with. You double down. You strategize harder. You focus deeper. Because that's what the builders do. That's what the architects of legacy understand. They know moments of pressure produce the diamonds of destiny. They know the storms don't destroy them, they shape them. And most of all, they know the reward is not just what they build, but who they become through the building. So you keep building. Even when it's quiet, even when it's slow, even when you doubt. Especially then. Because when you break through, when the results come, when the life aligns, when the world finally sees what you've been building in silence, it won't just be success. It will be undeniable. It will be unshakable. It will be yours. Built on strategy, rooted in principle, driven by vision, sustained by purpose, and it will last. And just like the summit of any great mountain, it's not about the view, it's about who you became during the climb. The bruises, the battles, the lonely mornings, the countless pivots, they were never the price. They were the proof that you were willing to pay what success demands. So now you stand here, at the edge, not of completion, but of confirmation. That everything you've heard, everything you've felt, everything that stirred inside you was real. It was the truth. And now comes the reckoning. The moment where you stop consuming wisdom and become it. Where you stop admiring success from a distance and step into it fully, unapologetically. Because life is not going to wait. And success, true, lasting, legacy-level success is not going to beg for your attention. It will not chase you. It only moves toward those who move toward it with blood in their vision and a blueprint in their hands. You have that blueprint now. It's not complicated, but it is sacred. Live with strategy, think with clarity, build with principle, act with precision, lead with humility, adapt with courage, persist with fire, and rise with gratitude. You were never meant to be average, not with that mind, not with that calling, not with that soul. So don't you dare shrink back. Don't you dare settle. Don't you dare let this world convince you to stay small, safe, silent. You are not here to blend in. You are here to build out the future only you can see. So write the plan, follow the code, honor the work, respect the process, stand in the fire, shape the storm, break the cycle, build the legacy. And never forget this, you don't find lasting success. You become the kind of person who builds it. And when you Dowen, every habit aligns, every belief fortifies, every decision reflects the greatness inside you, then nothing can take it from you. Not failure, not fear, not time, because success built with strategy doesn't fade. It echoes. And now it's your turn to become the echo. Loud, clear, unstoppable. Now go build what only you can build and make it last. There is a kind of wealth that can't be stolen and a kind of happiness that cannot be shaken. It doesn't live in your bank account. It lives in your backbone. It isn't parked in your driveway. It's parked in your discipline. It doesn't sparkle in public. It resonates in private, where your habits are born, where your thoughts take root, where your future is quietly decided by who you choose to become when nobody is watching. Because lasting wealth isn't a windfall. It's a way of life. And real happiness? It's not a mood. It's a mastery. Most people chase these things like mirages. Running harder, working longer, consuming more. But more does not equal meaningful. They accumulate noise and call it progress. But wealth, true wealth, is quiet. And happiness, real happiness, is built on things the world forgot how to measure. These are not tricks, they are truths. Not hacks, habits. And the first noble habit that builds both wealth and happiness? Self-respect. Not the kind you post, the kind you practice. Self-respect is saying no to what dims you. It's waking up early when your comfort begs you to stay asleep. It's holding your word not because it's convenient, but because it's who you are. It's choosing the food that fuels you, the habits that sharpen you, the people who challenge you. Because every time you betray yourself for short-term pleasure, you subtract from your soul. And every time you keep your promise to yourself, you multiply your power. Self-respect is the foundation of all wealth. Because a man who respects himself will not tolerate poverty of spirit, pocket, or purpose. The second noble habit? Decisive simplicity. In a world addicted to clutter of thought, of possessions, of opinions, the happiest and wealthiest are those who simplify with conviction. They don't chase 1,000 things. They master the essential. They don't ask what's trending. They ask what's true. They don't complicate success with endless options. They reduce it to a handful of disciplines done daily, deeply, and without compromise. Simplicity is not lack. It is clarity. And clarity gives birth to consistency. And consistency, over time, births results. The third noble habit is this: intentional thinking. Your thoughts are your architects. Most people live in a mental house built by their past, decorated with doubts and wired with fear. But the wealthy, the truly wealthy, think on purpose. They don't let thought happen to them. They shape it. They challenge every limiting belief. They upgrade their inner language until their mind becomes a machine for possibility. They don't think like everyone else. That's why they don't live like everyone else. You must think in alignment. with the person you are becoming, not the one you used to be. Your wealth is a reflection of your inner dialogue. Clean it up, sharpen it, elevate it. The fourth noble habit is a brutal one. Radical ownership. No more blame. No more waiting. No more if only. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are a creator of consequence. Everything in your life is either what you've created or what you've allowed. That's not judgment. That's freedom. Because the moment you own it all, the pain, the delay, the failures, the lack, is the same moment you reclaim your power to change it. Ownership is not shame. It is sovereignty. You stop negotiating with weakness. You stop blaming your parents, your past, your employer, your partner. You say, this is mine, and because it's mine, I can rebuild it. The fifth noble habit, deliberate solitude. Silence is sacred. Space is powerful, and most people are terrified of both, because in the silence you meet your real self. You face the work you've avoided, the emotions you've numbed, the dreams you've buried. But solitude, true, deliberate solitude, is where wisdom is born, where alignment is restored, where vision is clarified. Every truly successful person protects their time alone. They don't just meditate, they listen to what matters, to what's next, to what needs to be cut, refined, or pursued. If you want clarity, stop talking, stop scrolling, get still. The answers you seek aren't out there. They're waiting in the quiet place you keep avoiding. The sixth noble habit is rare. Joyful generosity. Give not just to appear generous, but to become powerful. Not because you have to, because you get to. The happiest people don't hoard their wins. They share them. Their wealth is not a wall, it's a well. They give time, attention, wisdom, kindness, and, yes, money, not to prove their worth, but to multiply it in others. They understand that money is a magnifier, and when it meets a generous heart, it creates ripple effects that outlive the giver. True wealth is not measured by what you can keep. It's measured by what you can afford to give away without fear. And only the truly wealthy in mind, in spirit, can give like that. The seventh noble habit is this: intentional consumption. You are not just what you eat. You are what you consume in every sense. What you read, what you watch, who you follow, what you allow into your mental and emotional bloodstream. Guard it like a gatekeeper, because every piece of content you consume is either building your mind or polluting it. The wealthy don't binge mindlessly. They don't feed off gossip. They don't marinate in fear-based media. They curate what goes in because they know what goes in eventually comes out. In their energy, in their focus, in their decisions. So audit your inputs and you will transform your outputs. The eighth noble habit, relentless follow through. Start less. Finish more. Every unfinished goal erodes your self-trust. Every broken promise weakens your power. But every completed task, no matter how small, is a vote for the person you're becoming. The happiest people don't start and stop. They start and ship. They move in rhythm. They close loops. They finish books. They keep appointments. They do what they said they would do long after the mood they set it in has died. That kind of integrity is rare, but it's magnetic. And it creates wealth, because in a world of half-hearted promises, certainty is a currency. The ninth noble habit, unshakable gratitude. Not the soft, polite kind, the warrior's gratitude, the kind that looks life in the eye and says, thank you even for this, even for the pain, even for the setbacks, even for the silence. Gratitude is not weakness. It is weaponized awareness. Because when you see your life through the lens of abundance, you stop chasing and you start receiving. You stop living in lack. You start living in overflow. Gratitude unlocks joy. Joy expands energy. And energy, when aimed with discipline, builds empires. So be grateful. Not because everything is perfect. Be grateful because you are still here and you have more inside you than the world has yet to see. And that is a wealth no number can measure. Because when you live with these habits, not just occasionally, but daily, fiercely, without compromise, something begins to shift. You stop being a servant to your circumstances and start becoming the sculptor of your destiny. You walk different, talk different, think different, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you're finally impressed by yourself. You've tasted what it means to wake up with purpose. You've felt the calm that comes from knowing you are in control. You've seen how quickly wealth begins to flow when you stop leaking your energy and start directing it. Because wealth and happiness real, lasting, deep, are never random. They are never accidents. They are never luck. They are a reflection of your systems, your decisions, your mindset, your habits. And if your habits are noble, your life becomes powerful. You don't just collect money, you collect meaning. You don't just build net worth, you build inner worth. And that kind of worth, you carry it into every room. In the way you shake hands, in the way you speak truth, in the way you sit with silence. And don't squirm because your soul is no longer chaotic. It's centered. You have nothing to prove because your results speak louder than your voice ever could. And the people who encounter you, they know. They feel it. They feel the weight of a life built on principle. A life built on practice, not just platitudes. A life of depth, rhythm, fire, and peace all at once. Because you have become the rarest kind of person, not just rich in your wallet, rich in your spirit, rich in your identity, rich in your ability to create, give, endure, and lead. And that kind of wealth, it doesn't fluctuate with the markets. It doesn't fade with time. It multiplies across generations through actions in legacy. So stand in that, not with arrogance, but with quiet knowing that you are no longer hoping for wealth. You are living it. You are no longer chasing happiness. You are embodying it because you, through these noble habits, have become the very thing the world is still searching for. Unshakable, unstoppable, unforgettable. And now your presence alone becomes a message, not because you speak it, but because you live it. The way you show up on time, the way your words match your actions, the way you look people in the eye, not with superiority, but with certainty, the way your energy enters the room before you do. It's in how you lead when no one's asking for leadership, how you serve without being asked, how you listen without needing to respond. That is what nobility looks like in the modern world. Not in titles, not in appearances, but in the invisible architecture of your habits, built one powerful choice at a time. And those choices have changed you. You no longer negotiate with average. You no longer tolerate emotional poverty, mental clutter, spiritual starvation. You demand more, not from the world, but from yourself. And in doing so, the world rises to meet you because wealth gravitates to clarity. Happiness flows toward discipline, and success becomes inevitable when your habits are rooted in truth. You've stopped asking, what do I get from this? And started asking, who am I becoming through this? And the answer is finally worthy of the life you've always imagined. You're not chasing it anymore. You're living it fully, finally, and permanently. Because permanence is never built on passion alone. It's built on practice. Daily, deliberate, unwavering. And now, your days are no longer random. They're engineered. Each morning is an intention. Each action is a declaration. Each habit is a foundation stone in a life designed for expansion. And that expansion is not just in your income. It's in your patience, in your focus, in your ability to endure pressure and still move with grace. You've built a resilience most people dream about, not because you avoided struggle, but because you embraced it. You learned to bleed without breaking, to fall without folding, to rise without drama. And now, Your life is not proof that it was easy. It's proof that it was worth it. That the habits no one saw created results no one can deny. You don't need luck when you have alignment. You don't need noise when you live with nobility. And you certainly don't need to chase happiness when it flows from you like light, like gravity, like truth. This is who you are now. Not an echo, a force, not a follower, a foundation. And when others ask how you did it, how you built wealth and peace, how you lead with strength and softness, how you walk with power and humility, you'll simply answer, I made a vow to live with habits no one could see, so I could create a life no one could ignore. And that vow, quiet, sacred, unshakable, became the seed of your transformation. You didn't wait for the world to approve it. You didn't ask permission. You decided. And that decision has now become destiny. Because when you commit to noble habits, you no longer just live for comfort, you live for contribution. You no longer chase validation, you live in value. You no longer measure success by what you collect, but by what you cultivate. You've become the architect of something rare. A life where wealth is not measured by digits, but by depth. Where happiness is not conditional, but constitutional. Where peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of preparedness. Because the truth is, the world doesn't need more flashy success stories. It needs more grounded legacies. It needs people like you who live what they preach, who move with fire and lead with light, who understand that greatness isn't what you get. It's what you give through who you've become. So keep going. Keep building. Keep honoring the habits that got you here, because they didn't just change your life. They've already started changing the world around you. There's something deep inside you, not a whisper, not a wish, but a roar buried under years of noise, silenced by fear, numbed by routine, and forgotten by a world that rewards comfort over courage. It's not gone. It's just waiting, dormant but alive. Your hidden potential. Not everyone hears it. Some ignore it, some bury it. Some pretend it was never there. But you feel it. In the quiet moments, in the stillness between distractions, a pressure in your chest, a tension in your soul, the voice that says, you were made for more, not more things, more truth, more impact, more becoming. And yet, so many never unlock it. Not because it's unreachable, but because it's unclaimed. Because they look for potential in the mirror, in the applause, in the results. But potential is not found. It's forged. Potential is not a gift. It's an inheritance that demands activation. And the first key is belief. Not belief in luck, not belief in hope, but belief in your capacity to rise, to transform, to shed the outdated version of yourself, and step fully into the beast you were always meant to become. You must believe that the gap between who you are and who you could be is not a canyon, it's a corridor, a hallway of discipline, decisions, and design. You must believe that greatness is not reserved for the chosen few, but for the few who choose it daily, deliberately, and without excuse. Belief is the spark, but it's not enough. You must build what you believe, and you start by mastering your mindset. Because every prison begins in the mind, and every revolution begins there too. The world told you to be realistic, to play it safe, to shrink your dreams into digestible pieces. But potential does not live in logic. It lives in possibility. It breathes in the lungs of the visionary. It thrives in the minds of those who reject mediocrity like poison. You must rewire the lens through which you see yourself. Not based on your past, but based on your future identity. Stop asking what you're capable of based on where you've been. Ask based on who you must become. Your mind must serve your mission, not your memory. Burn the idea that you're stuck. You're not a tree. You move, you grow, you transform. When you command your thoughts, you command your outcomes. When you elevate your inner dialogue, you elevate your entire life. And from that mindset flows clarity. Clarity is power. Without it, your energy leaks. Your potential dilutes. You chase shadows instead of building empires. Clarity means knowing the target. Not the one the world told you to want, but the one your soul demands. What do you actually want? Not vaguely, not someday, precisely. Because you cannot hit a target you won't define. You cannot climb a mountain you refuse to name. And don't just chase goals, build standards. Goals are dreams with deadlines. Standards are expectations with consequences. Raise your standards, and your potential stops being optional. Clarity makes your decisions inevitable. When your why is solid, your what becomes automatic and your how begins to appear. From clarity emerges vision, the art of seeing what isn't visible yet. And make no mistake, vision is not fantasy. It's future reality painted in the colors of conviction. Vision doesn't beg for permission. It demands execution. And the clearer your vision, the less validation you need. You stop waiting for the world to understand and start building it anyway. You stop waiting for the perfect time, because the perfect time doesn't exist. There is only now, and now is always sacred. So speak your vision into the silence. Write it, shout it, commit to it like it's your only shot, because it is. But vision alone is not the lockpick to your potential. You need purpose. Without purpose, the vision is hollow. Purpose turns your goals into a mission. It connects your grind to something greater than results, greater than ego, greater than money. Purpose is the anchor that keeps you grounded when life throws its weight against you. And it will. The storms don't ask if you're ready. They just arrive. And when they do, your purpose will be the only voice loud enough to remind you why you began. Find it. Feed it. Follow it. It may come through pain. It may come through silence. It may come through loss. But when it come ashonor it, let it refine your steps. Let it set fire to your excuses. With purpose in your chest and vision in your eyes, you become undeniable. But none of it matters without discipline. Because the potential inside you is not unlocked through passion. It's unlocked through practice. Discipline is the bridge between thought and transformation. You don't need to feel like it. You need to do it anyway. Because champions are not created in moments of motivation. They are revealed in the dark hours, the quiet reps, the boring, brutal, beautiful consistency that nobody claps for. Discipline doesn't care about your feelings. It serves your future. It shows up when motivation dies, when the world stops watching, when your results are still invisible. And discipline, practiced long enough, becomes identity. I am someone who shows up. I am someone who follows through. I am someone who honors their potential. Say it until it becomes true, until you stop negotiating with weakness, until the habits become muscle memory and the standard becomes instinct. Because action is not just what you do, it's who you become. And action is the next key. Because action is the catalyst, the dividing line, the point of no return. You can believe with fire, think with clarity, speak with conviction, but if you do not move, you do not transform. Action is the great translator. It turns inner potential into outer reality. It takes dreams off the shelf and forges them into form. But don't just act. Act strategically. Act intentionally. The difference between movement and progress is alignment. Stop confusing being busy with being productive. Stop mistaking noise for momentum. Every action must be tied to the person you're becoming, not the comfort you're protecting. Ask yourself, is this action worthy of the future I want? If it's not, cut it, strip it, replace it. Your time is currency. Your energy is sacred. You cannot afford the luxury of distraction. And here's the thing, they won't see the work at first. They won't clap. They won't get it. But that's good. That's a gift. Because silence trains your integrity. It sharpens your hunger. It tests whether you're doing it for attention or for alignment. Those who build in silence are the ones who last. But the weight of action, the cost of commitment requires fuel. And that fuel is gratitude. Gratitude is not weakness. It is not soft. It is one of the most strategic tools for unlocking potential. Why? Because a grateful mind is a present mind. And a present mind is a powerful one. When you're grateful, you see. You see how far you've come. You see the lessons inside the losses. You see the opportunity inside the challenge. Gratitude isn't about being content with less. It's about being empowered by what you already have so you can build more. Gratitude keeps you grounded in truth, not panic. It keeps your heart open in the grind. It protects your joy from erosion. And joy is a secret weapon, because the one who loves the process will always outlast the one addicted to results. But to sustain that gratitude, to hold that fire, you must master adaptability, because the path will not go as planned. The market will shift, the people will change, the storms will come, and the rigid will break. Adaptability is the wisdom to evolve without losing your essence. It is the art of adjusting your method without abandoning your mission. You must be anchored in principle, but fluid in approach. The most powerful version of you is not the most stubborn, it's the most strategic. The one who learns, who shifts, who moves forward anyway. Because the goal is not to control everything, it's to stay aligned, no matter what changes. And alignment demands resilience. Resilience is more than survival. It's the ability to rise with more wisdom, more grit, more clarity after every fall. You will be knocked down. You will fail. You will question everything. But resilience is the voice inside that says, this is not where I end. This is where I refine. Resilience is earned in the trenches, in the tears, in the moments where quitting looks noble but staying looks divine. You get up, you rebuild, you reinforce your standard, because your potential doesn't shrink. When life gets hard, it sharpens. Every challenge is not the end of your story. It is a chapter in your evolution. And as you evolve, you learn. You must. Which brings us to the final key: learning. Lifelong, hungry, obsessed learning. Not academic, not passive, but learning that is applied. Learning that transforms. Because the person you are today cannot hold the weight of the future you crave. You must grow into it. And that growth comes through humility. The humility to admit you don't know everything. The humility to seek mentors. The humility to stay a student, even when you become a master. Your ego will scream that you've made it, but your purpose will whisper, there's more. The moment you think you've arrived is the moment your potential begins to rot. Stay hungry. Stay curious. Stay in pursuit of the next edge, the next truth, the next level, because you were never meant to plateau. You were meant to elevate over and over again. Then breathe in deeply, because this is the final ignition. The moment the words become a mirror, the moment you stop listening and start becoming. You have felt it, that fire, that quiet ache, that unexplainable pull towards something greater. It is not random. It is not a phase. It is the call of your own becoming. This is the hour of awakening, not a motivation, not a pep talk, an awakening. To remember who you are, to return to what was buried beneath the noise, to unlock the version of you that doesn't beg life for permission, but commands it with alignment. Because here's what no one told you. You don't have to earn your potential. You were born with it, but you do have to activate it. With belief, clarity, vision, purpose, with discipline, action, gratitude, adaptability, with resilience, and learning relentlessly. You unlock your potential by living on the edge of discomfort. You unlock your potential by choosing truth over ease. You unlock your potential by saying yes to the version of you that terrifies your comfort zone. Because that version, the one who builds, who leads, who becomes the example, is already inside you. Right now, it's not a future version. It's a hidden one, hidden beneath delay, hidden beneath self-doubt, hidden beneath stories you didn't even write but kept repeating. But the keys have been given. The lock is in front of you. And now the choice is yours. Will you go back to normal? Back to average? Back to a life where potential dies in the dark? Or will you rise? Will you walk forward shaking, uncertain, but undeniably ready? Will you unlock that door? Because on the other side is not just success, not just freedom, not just a better life. On the other side is you, fully alive, fully awake, fully unstoppable. The world does not need another person playing small. It needs you. Unleashed. The real you. The hidden potential set free. So go now. Unlock it. Live it. Become it. And don't look back.